I was 15 when I met Jason at school. He was so cool, and he told me he wanted to be with me and nobody else. It felt good to be so wanted. We knew that we'd get married someday and be together forever. I didn't mind dropping out of basketball and student government to spend all of my time with him. Then Jason told me that I couldn't hang out with my best friend anymore, and soon all of my friends just faded away. We started to fight. He'd say really mean things and call me degrading names. Afterwards, I'd forgive him. That just became our pattern. I couldn't tell my parents that Jason was hurting me. They'd make me stop dating him, and I didn't want to stop. If I wasn't with Jason, some other girl would be. Sometimes I'd get so mad at him that I'd lose my temper. One time when we were fighting, I smashed a lamp. He grabbed me, and he threw me outside with no coat and no shoes in the middle of the winter. He yelled out the door that I was a slut and I deserved to freeze. You might think it's crazy, but I thought he said these things because he cared about me so much. Sometimes I'd think about breaking up with Jason, but I was afraid that nobody else would want to date me because that's what Jason told me. Then we had this really big fight. Jason grabbed me, and he shook me, and I fell to the floor. He dragged me all the way across the room, and I was covered in rug burns. I ran out the door and straight to my friend's house. You know what she said to me when I got there? "Jessica, why do you take that crap? If you can't stick up for yourself, then I can't be your friend anymore." After that, I saw a poster at school for a peer group meeting. It was during the school day, so I went, just to listen. That's when I found out about the Bay Area Women's Center. I found out that the Women's Center provides free services. A counselor comes to my school once a week to talk to me about whatever's on my mind. The youth counselor helped me realize the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship. She also helped me with my self-esteem. Now I have the strength to tell people how I really feel. Eventually, Jason and I did break up. I realized that it wasn't a healthy relationship. Because of the Women's Center, I'm stronger now. I know myself better, and I can stand up for myself.
My husband and I are officially called secondary victims. It's a term used to describe people like us, family members of a loved one who is sexually assaulted. Our daughter Melissa was raped 2 years ago. She was home from college for holiday break, and she went out to meet with friends. She didn't come home that night. John and I were worried sick. It was about 5 in the morning when we got the call that Melissa had been sexually assaulted, that she was all right, and that a crisis counselor from the Women's Center was with her. Apparently, while Melissa was at a party, someone slipped her GHB, a date rape drug. When she came to and realized she had been assaulted, she drove herself to the hospital. The nurse suggested that a Women's Center counselor be with her while she was being examined and treated. The counselor stayed with Melissa while the police officer questioned her. The counselor came to the waiting room and talked with John and me. She told us that when there's been a sexual assault, the crisis professionals at the Women's Center spend 60 to 70% of their time working with family members, helping them deal with recovery issues. I know what happened to Melissa wasn't her fault, but her dad and I were angry. Angry that we had somehow failed to protect her. You always want to be there for your kids. You want to protect them. Isn't that a parent's job? The counselor from the Women's Center really helped us sort out our feelings. The Women's Center helped our family in so many ways. The legal process can be confusing, and it seems to take so long. But the Women's Center helped us with what's called legal advocacy. They helped explain the paperwork. They worked with law enforcement. They were with Melissa every single time she gave testimony, and were with our family when we went to court. Melissa started individual counseling and group therapy through the Women's Center, and that helped her a lot. You can't handle a trauma like this on your own. I know we couldn't have. The Bay Area Women's Center helped Melissa, and they helped our whole family.
Thank goodness my kids were spending vacation with Grandma and Grandpa at the time, because Kenny and I had a really bad fight that night. I woke up the next morning, looked in the mirror. My right eye was swollen shut. My left eye was bruised, and he'd ruptured my eardrum. I just caked on the makeup and went to work. My supervisor called me in and said I couldn't wait on customers the way I looked, and sent me to the hospital. The nurse asked me who assaulted me. I said, "Nobody. I just fell down. I'm clumsy." But she recognized the signs of domestic violence and was required to call the police. The police officer is the one who encouraged me to call the Bay Area Women's Center. After talking to a crisis counselor, I decided to stay at the Women's Center. I felt safe there. But I thought I could handle my problems myself. So after a week, I moved out and went back home. Having been away for a week, thought maybe things would get better, that Kenny would change and start treating me better. But I was wrong. Nothing had changed at all. Kenny intimidated me. He threatened my parents. I never knew what would set Kenny off or when he would beat me up again. For 5 more years, I lived like that. Until one night, when I came home from shopping, Kenny began yelling at me. He threatened me. Held a gun to my head. It was only then that I realized that he was capable of killing me. I wanted Kenny out of our lives. I picked up the phone and called the Women's Center. I asked for help again. The girls and I left that night and moved into the Women's Center. When you run out of your house fearing for your life, you leave without your toothbrush or a change of clothes to wear to work the next day. But the Women's Center gives you everything you need. It's a safe place. No drugs, no alcohol. They serve nutritious meals. I even packed my kids' school lunches in the Women's Center kitchen. I was worried about my kids. I wanted them to participate in youth counseling, one-on-one and group, right there at the Women's Center. Group therapy builds their self-esteem and teaches kids what's right and wrong in a family. I started counseling too. It may seem odd to you, but I knew that without consistent counseling, I'd be right back with Kenny. When I walked into the support group for the first time and looked around, had my mind made up. I thought, I won't have anything in common with these women. But one by one, the women in the group described my abuser when they described their abusers. And they described my assault when they described their assaults. When you've been abused, there are so many things to figure out. A Women's Center legal advocate literally took me by the hand and helped me fill out paperwork. She escorted me to the courthouse and helped me get a personal protection order and start divorce proceedings. Through it all, the Women's Center kept me strong. I look at myself now and compare it to who I was a year ago. I'm a different person. Because of the Bay Area Women's Center, my girls and I have gotten our lives back. We're living again.